Hello darlings, and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be tackling the AuthorTube Newbie 2.0 tag. I thought I would go ahead and do this while I'm still technically an AuthorTube newbie. I haven't been here very long. There are a lot of other tags that I want to do, but I felt like the AuthorTube Newbie tags were a great place to start with using tags. With all that said, let's talk about writing. Question number 1. What's your book's pitch? If you have multiple works, choose your favorite. I do have multiple works in progress right now. One of them is a poetry collection and the other is a novel. So I'm going to do the pitch for the novel, which I've written down here, and I'm just going to read it off. 4 months after the attack, Dex returns to the very school she almost died in. Her aim, to take down the segregative system the administration has in place. She soon discovers that not all is what it seems, and she is changing in ways she never would have imagined. So that's the pitch for my book. I think it's worth noting that the word segregative or segregation is usually aligned with like racial segregation, but it also means like to separate into groups. In the book, the students of the school are separated into groups, and the main character is looking to end that separative environment. I'll probably switch it to another word later on when I find a word that I feel like fits better, but that is my pitch for my book. The second question, if you were a book, how would you pitch yourself? This was an interesting question, and I decided to have a little bit of fun with it and to pitch my life as a horror story. So here is the pitch. As a woman heals from the trauma of her past and battles anxiety for her future, she begins to wonder if the very thing she's trying to escape has taken on a life of its own. So yeah, that's the pitch I decided to go with. You know, you gotta put a creative spin on some things, right? Question 3, what do you usually write? When it comes to poetry, I dabble in all kinds of different forms and techniques, but I write a lot of free verse. Story-wise, I write a lot of fantasy, paranormal, horror, and psychological thrillers and dramas. Those are the categories I'm most interested in writing in, even though I have like story ideas for all of those categories, even though I'm not actively writing in all of them. I do plan to write in all of them. Question number 4, what's something you'll never write? Westerns and historical fiction feel like the least likely, but you know, never say never. I'm open to anything if I have a good idea about it. Question number 5, what's your goal in starting an AuthorTube channel? My goal is to share my passion for poetry, writing, and other art forms, while also sharing my journeys in life with anxiety and other struggles. Question number 6, what made you want to start writing? I've been writing since I was 8 years old, so it's always been a passion of mine. I think what initially made me want to start writing was that I just wanted to have a place to write down like the worlds in my head, you know, to kind of make them more permanent than just like fleeting thoughts or daydreams or worlds that only belong to me and that I might not remember later on. And so that was the initial push to start writing, was to just share the worlds inside of my head. I've always had a bit of an escapism problem from early on in my youth. Always daydreaming in my head, and that's definitely, I think, what drove me to start writing. Question 7, what is your publishing path? I've already self-published a poetry collection called The Elements Between Us, Links to purchase this is in the description below. Outside of that, my dream has always been to be traditionally published. So that's the next goal of mine. That's what I'm going to actively work for next. As for the future though, I might end up being a hybrid publisher, someone who self-publishes and traditionally publishes. It just depends, but traditional publishing is really what I want right now, so that's what I'm going to work very hard for. Question number 8. What content do you bring to the AuthorTube table? Well, I bring a lot of poetry content to the table. There's not a lot of poetry content on YouTube, and I'm proud to contribute to that as a poet and not just an enjoyer of poetry. I hope that more poets will join YouTube and we'll get a nice community of poets sharing their work and their passion for poetry. Outside of that, my goal is to always give open and honest advice. I will not give advice that I don't feel qualified for, and I will not give advice that I don't believe in. Question number 9. What's your biggest writing struggle? I struggle most with overwriting and editing. When I say overwriting, I mean writing past a certain word count. My mind tends to want to elaborate on everything, and I'm trying to learn how to control that so that I don't just do too much. And there is a line where you've just written too much and there's too much information and you just developed too much fat, and I do have a problem with that. When it comes to editing tends to be a slow process, and I'm a very impatient person who's prone to procrastination, so editing can be very difficult for me to do. Question 10, what's your best writing skill? This one's hard for me because I'm way better at being self-critical than I am at praising myself, but I'll give it my best shot. In storytelling, I'm great at the researching and developing stage of writing. That phase where you are taking fragmented thoughts and ideas and molding them together to create something more solid. In poetry, I'm great at conveying the emotion or story that I'm trying to tell and have it be effective for the reader. With both, I'd like to say that I'm good with imagery and even utilizing unconventional images. However, I feel like imagery is something that's like an eye of the beholder kind of thing, where some people will really love an author's imagery and other people will hate that imagery. So I feel like it's really individual to the author and how they build up that imagery, and some people will love it and some people will hate it. But I suppose that I personally like how I use imagery. Question number 11. If you've been on AuthorTube for a while, what's your best AuthorTube tip? Now, I have not been on AuthorTube for very long, but I do already have a tip. My tip is to pre-plan videos in advance, create a schedule, and film multiple videos at once. This is something that I'm just starting to do, but it will give you more time for your writing and creative endeavors if you do this. Because for a long time, I was just doing one video a week. I was filming it and then editing it for YouTube. And that's with like my other small business job. So that's a lot to do, and it does take away from writing time. I haven't been writing a lot of poetry or working on my book because I just have no time to work on them. But by pre-planning and pre-scheduling and filming in bulk, I'll have more time because I won't have to worry week to week about preparing something for YouTube. Question number 12. If you're new to AuthorTube, what is your biggest AuthorTube question? My biggest AuthorTube question would be, how do you go about building a following and a community on AuthorTube? This is something I feel like I struggle with on all social media platforms, so any advice is always something I would be very grateful for. Question number 3. Are you looking for any new channels to follow, betas, CPs, or other types of writer buddies? Honestly, I'm open to connecting to all, but especially other writers and poets. Question 14. What are you most excited for during this fresh new start on AuthorTube? Now that I'm getting into a sort of flow and figuring out how to talk to the camera, I'm excited to see what I can do and if people enjoy my content. I'm also excited at the idea of making new writer friends and developing meaningful connections. Well, darlings, that's it for today's video. If you liked this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. Don't forget to tippity tap in the comments below to tell me what you thought of this video. And if there are any other AuthorTube tags you'd like me to do, please suggest them there. If you made it this far, don't forget to pick up your bonus points. And always remember to rise from your ashes, darling. Alright, until next time. Bye. Wait, did that not record?